Hi boys and girls, and welcome to part 2 of our sugar skull project. So last week we learned how to draw our sugar skull. We started by drawing 2 lines down and across our paper to help guide us in making a very symmetrical sugar skull. If you don't remember what symmetrical means, we learned this kind of in the beginning of the school year. Symmetrical is anything that is the same on both sides. So for example, it could be any shape or anything that is identical. So when I draw a line down the middle of something, is this side the same as this side? A skull, yes, has the same thing going on both sides. It's symmetrical. A circle, if I cut the circle in half, are this side and this side the same? Yes, so this is a symmetrical shape. A triangle. Is a triangle symmetrical? If I cut it in half, are this side and this side the same? Yes. A heart. Symmetrical. Is a free-form shape symmetrical? If I cut it in half. These sides are not the same. This is not a symmetrical shape. So a skull is symmetrical. It's the same on both sides. And when we decorate our sugar skull, we want to make the design that we add to it a symmetrical design. So if I started by putting some kind of a nice design on this eye, which could be something like bumps all around, it could be pointy triangles all the way around, it could be a squiggle around, but whatever you do on one eye, you're gonna do the same exact thing on the other, because we want this to be a symmetrical design. These can become pretty detailed and fancy, or if you want to keep it simple, you can do that too. So after I put something around the eye, which again does not have to be bumps, I can then go in and add more. And I can keep going around and adding more and more. And then of course I would have to do the same thing to that eye. You can put something inside the eye, you can draw an actual eye, or you can just make a shape. I have a little bit of room to keep going with this design where I could do, something like this. I'm just giving you an idea, but I hope that all the sugar skulls that I see in the next couple of weeks look very different. It's fun to use my ideas and then come up with your own way of doing it. And I'm getting pretty detailed with this. Take your time and go slow, and make sure that the shapes and lines that you do add do not look too cluttered. You could see that mine have a nice amount of space around them. They're not crashing into each other. So if you don't have the room to add details, don't add them. Just do whatever fits into your skull. I can put dots inside of here. So when you're doing some kind of a radial design, which is a design that goes around and around in a circle, you can just keep going and adding. You can put designs on the inside like this. So, but just remember, whatever you do on this side, you have to do on this side to make it a symmetrical design. I'm not gonna do that just because I don't wanna take up too much of your time in this video. So many things that you could do on the forehead of your skull. If it helps, you can make an imaginary line to show you one side from the other. So if I wanted to make something like a flower, I know that the circle, like the middle of the flower, needs to land. I'm gonna make my imaginary line just a little darker so you could see, but I'll erase this later. If I'm gonna make a flower on the head, I know that the circle needs to land on the center of that line so that it is symmetrical. Here is one side of the circle and the other. So this is symmetrical. I have a half a circle on this side of the symmetrical line, and the other half of the circle is here. Now, if I put a petal in the center, it should land on that line. So putting a line in the middle of your head can help guide you to making sure that it's centered and still symmetrical. So I'm just doing this kind of cartoonish flower in the center. You could do a rose, you could do a heart, you could just make a cool design. There's millions of ideas. So you just make it whatever you want to make it. Put some dots like this. You can add some leaves. Sometimes it's tricky when you start making fancy shapes like that. Sometimes it is a little tricky to make them exactly the same. So don't go crazy trying to make it exact. Just do your best to try to make sure that the two sides match. I'm gonna try to erase the symmetrical line now. Remember, it's always good not to push on your pencil when you're planning something out so that you can make mistakes and erase them easily. So I just go kind of back and forth. I add a little bit over here, then I add a little bit over here. You could put something on the chin. You could put a design around the skull's mouth. I seem to always do these bumpy lines. I'm trying not to make my points too big, because if I make them really big, then I won't have room to put something underneath them. I'm thinking of something here I could put. I'm going to make some kind of a vine looking line coming down from here, which means I need to repeat the same thing over here. So I'm just kind of thinking of cool ideas to add. I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm just going slow, taking my time, drawing lightly in case I don't like something and I need to erase it. This is going to be a hard one to match. It goes out, in, and out. So out, in, and out. It's not going to be exact, but I'm trying my best. I can make this into like a leaf vine. So it looks like I kind of have this shape and flower theme happening in my skull, which probably means that I'm inspired by Mexican sugar skulls, which usually do have flowers in them. Okay, and you can just keep going and just making this as crazy detailed as you can. When you're done, if you have a Sharpie lying around, you're gonna wanna trace this with a Sharpie, and then next week we'll discuss some coloring. So that is your lesson for this week. Take your time, enjoy, and if you have any questions at all, or if you wanna share your progress, please join me on Zoom on Wednesday. Have fun, guys, enjoy.